Hey, welcome to Sundaish English, where you don't just learn English, you live it. Ready to sound natural, think in English, and speak with confidence? Let's get started. What if the survival of an entire species depended not on strength, not on intelligence, but on something far more unpredictable? Chance. Imagine a forest, quiet, vast, alive, yet fragile in ways we rarely see. Every decision humans make about that forest, how much to cut, how much to protect, carries consequences far beyond what meets the eye. And to understand those consequences, we need more than opinion. We need science. One powerful tool scientists use is called Population Viability Analysis, or PVA. It may sound technical, but its purpose is simple: to answer one haunting question. What are the chances that a species will disappear forever? In places like the United States, this method has already guided critical decisions about land use, helping balance economic needs with ecological survival. And now, it holds enormous potential for protecting wildlife in places like Australia, where forests stretch wide yet face constant pressure. At its core, extinction is simple to define. It happens when the last individual dies. But the process that leads to that final moment is anything but simple. It is shaped by uncertainty, randomness, and forces we cannot fully control. And this is where the story begins. Scientists have identified several key processes that push species closer to extinction. The first is something called demographic uncertainty. In nature, survival is never guaranteed. One year, a pair of animals may produce many offspring. The next year, none at all. Some individuals survive, others don't, and often it comes down to chance. In large populations, these ups and downs balance out. But in small populations, randomness becomes dangerous. Numbers can swing wildly, and even if a population is expected to grow, it can suddenly collapse. This means extinction can happen not because a species is weak, but because luck was not on its side. Early models suggested that if a population had more than about 50 individuals and continued growing, extinction was unlikely. But over time, scientists realized the reality is far more complex. The second force is inbreeding. When populations become small, individuals are more likely to reproduce with close relatives. And when genetic lines become too similar, problems begin to emerge. Imagine a population of only 20 animals, and only one is male. Every future generation must come from that single individual. Over time, this lack of diversity weakens the species. Offspring may be less healthy, less adaptable, less likely to survive. And slowly, the population begins to fade. The third factor lies deep within biology itself: genetic diversity. Variation within a species is what allows it to evolve, to adapt, to survive change. Without it, a species becomes rigid, unable to respond to new threats, new predators, new diseases, changing climates. When populations shrink, this diversity is lost. And without that variation, survival becomes uncertain. But nature adds yet another layer. environmental uncertainty. In places like Australia, conditions can shift dramatically from one year to the next. Drought, flood, wildfire, disease outbreaks. These events can wipe out large portions of a population in an instant. Even a stable population can suddenly fall to a fraction of its size. And when all these uncertainties combine, demographic, genetic, environmental, the number of individuals needed for long-term survival rises dramatically. Not dozens, but thousands. Yet, there is another dimension, often overlooked. Not just how many individuals exist, but where they exist. Distribution matters. A species divided into several isolated groups faces a very different risk compared to one large, connected population. Imagine 5 small groups, each with 20 individuals, separated, unable to interact. Each group is vulnerable to its own collapse. Compare that to a single population of 100, living together, sharing genetic diversity, supporting one another. The difference is survival. Now, introduce human activity into this equation. Logging, the cutting down of forests for timber. At first glance, it may seem like a manageable disturbance. But for species that depend on those forests, it changes everything. When trees disappear, habitats vanish. Animals are forced to leave, to relocate, or to compete for limited space elsewhere. Some species, like ground-dwelling herbivores, may return within a decade, but others, especially those that live in trees, such as arboreal marsupials, may take over 100 years to recover. And as logging expands, populations shrink further, diversity declines, and the risk of extinction rises. No matter which model scientists use, the conclusion remains the same. Smaller populations are more vulnerable. Less genetic diversity, less resilience, more exposure to random events. And when these pressures combine, extinction becomes not just possible, but increasingly likely. So the question is no longer whether our decisions matter. The question is how much they matter. Every forest cut, every habitat altered, shifts the balance. And in that balance lies the future of countless species. Because extinction is not always dramatic. It does not always announce itself with a final moment we can witness. Sometimes it happens quietly, one individual at a time, until one day there are none left, and by then it is too late. Science gives us the tools to see this future before it happens, to measure risk, to understand patterns, to make better decisions. The real question is, will we listen? Because the fate of these species is not written by nature alone. It is written by us. I've prepared 15 comprehension questions for you, designed to test your understanding, sharpen your listening, and help you think deeper in English. So listen carefully, answer thoughtfully, and challenge yourself. Drop your answers in the comments. If this helped you, don't just watch. Join the Hub. Subscribe, stay consistent, and take your English to the next level. Sundaish English Hub, where language meets knowledge. Disclaimer: this content is created solely for educational purposes. Yes, purely for learning. Specifically to help English learners improve their listening, reading comprehension, vocabulary, and critical thinking skills. So as you listen, don't just hear the words. Feel them, understand them, live them. Learners are encouraged to use this material as real English practice, focusing on developing natural language ability and understanding academic-style texts. Because here, we don't just study English, we experience it. Learn English with Sundaish aims to combine language learning with global knowledge to create something meaningful, something powerful, something engaging. For English learners all around the world, let's grow, let's think, and let's elevate our English together.